I feel like Miles Teller in Top Gun Maverick. I went to the mustache zone. What is up, everybody? I am Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. It is November. That is why I am rocking this mustache in honor of those who've passed away from prostate cancer. It's Movember, Mustache November, or No Nut November. Some people like to celebrate, but that's not the topic of this video. We've discussed the best 4K Blu-rays, the worst 4K Blu-rays, the best 4K Blu-rays for bad movies, the most disappointing 4K Blu-rays. I just love nerding out over image quality of optical discs, and today is no different. Today we are going to be talking about the 5 underrated 4K Blu-rays that probably went under your radar when talking about really good image quality, because everyone ever talks about really good 4K Blu-rays, they talk about Dune, Dark Knight Rises, The Godfather, Godzilla vs. Kong, those type of movies that are within the atmosphere that gets shouted out in the echo chamber that is the 4K Blu-ray Reddit subreddit. But today we're going to be talking about something different. I have 5 4K Blu-rays that I personally checked out that are either from really shitty movies to really big masterpieces that I didn't know that had 4K Blu-rays. I got all of these on sale, so that's also why I'm mentioning them now, is because, you know, with Black Friday coming up in the next few weeks, you can maybe put this on your watch list, or on your, I guess, in your cart, your add to cart. So when the prices drop, you can snag those. So again, 5 films ranging in quality, but I also want to mention that this is not in a ranking, even though it says top 5. There is no ranking. I'm just telling you 5 4K Blu-rays that honestly really surprised me. So starting off with number 1, and that is Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. So the tech specs of this 4K Blu-ray is that it was filmed in 4K at 120 frames per second. That's crazy. This was finished with a 4K digital intermediate with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. This one was interesting going into it, knowing about the whole 4K 120 frames in 3D also. It was meant to be seen in theaters in 3D, but the home release was capped actually at 60 frames per second and no 3D, unfortunately, which it's not a big loss for me because I don't have a 3D setup. One day I'd like to get a 3D setup, but I'd have to get a 3D player and then a 3D TV, and it's just how many new releases, or how many releases actually support the 3D format. So I do want to preface that this transfer is not for everyone. It is in the same vein as Gemini Man when it comes to its frame rate. But that aside, I was actually quite surprised on the image quality. Sourced from a 4K digital intermediate, this was incredibly clean and sharp, mainly due to its lack of motion blur. So whenever something jots by like that, you see how it gets kind of blurry. When it comes to this 4K restoration, of this 4K presentation, there is no motion judder or any motion blur, so everything looks extremely clean and extremely sharp. A lot of detail in this 4K Blu-ray. For those that enjoy that kind of video style look, you'll absolutely love this. For me, I kind of like more of the filmic aspect of it, because again, the cinematography in this isn't the greatest at all. It's kind of a technical spectacle when it comes to this kind of presentation. It felt more like a tech demo than an actual film that I was watching. But honestly, to each their own. On the Dolby Vision side, skin complexions are intact and colors pop. The US flag never looked so vibrant. So when it comes to the Dolby Vision, it looks really good. Now getting into the audio a little bit, this does have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack, and I was genuinely surprised at this title, this obscure title that I've never heard of, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. What the fuck is that even movie? Like, I've never heard this movie before, but it got the whole treatment, Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. I mean, some big blockbusters don't even get that. But it was a welcome surprise, honestly, as the battle scenes were extremely pulse-pounding and immersive. Explosions, just gunshots whizzing past you, soldiers shouting, screaming in pain. It was absolutely a sight to be seen, and an ear to be listened to, a sound to be listened to. I don't know. It was fantastic. But unfortunately, the majority of the film, it is a drama. So the majority of the film is just dialogue scenes, but it does have those kind of flashback scenes to wartime in Iraq or Afghanistan, I believe. And it's extremely well done, but that's like 10-15 minutes of the actual movie. So it is hard to kind of recommend the audio side. The video side is fantastic when it comes to just the technical aspect of it. But I mean, the dialogue itself is clear. It's understandable. It does have a rich hue to it, but it is honestly a far cry from the immersive Atmos experience that the other scenes showcase. Next is another movie that I had no intention of owning it, but when I saw it on sale, I just had to pick it up. It's Matt Damon in The Great Wall. Tech specs are that it was filmed in 6.5K and 3.5K, finished with a 4K digital intermediate with HDR10 and English Dolby Atmos. Honestly, this was a no-brainer for the sharpness, as the majority of the film was recorded in 6.5K quality, and it shows. This is the best Blu-ray to 4K comparison on the list, with the most noticeable increase in image quality. And while not being the best movie on the list, the visuals were honestly extremely impressive. The costumes looked fantastic, as every little detail from stitch and patchwork were sharp as hell. In the beginning, when Matt Damon was all kind of gruffed up, the detail just pops, the smut on his face, the dried, crusty, bloody bits, the scabs on his face, when he has very dingy hair and beard. You can see each individual strand of beard hair. It was absolutely fantastic. When he was wearing this chainmail, you can see every little rivet section of chainmail. Looks really fantastic. The way it shines and glimmers and gleams, it looked really good. And then Pedro Pascal's character, he has a noticeable scar right here, and it looked really good too. Imperfections, all those kind of things are chock full of detail in this 4K transfer. And this does take place in a more fantasy-based China, so the scenery is breathtaking. Having this kind of real-life anime style to the cinematography, the HDR was absolutely gorgeous and teeters on a very vivid cartoony contrast, and like a gritty, realistic color tones are highlighted with this HDR transfer. Reds, blues, greens are fantastic. Black levels and night scenes are great with very minimal detail crush. This is also one of those Gemini Man cases, but I actually prefer the viewing experience over Gemini Man. It knows that it's a cartoony CGI blockbuster, and it revels in it. I mean, it looks like, it's basically like a really good double cheeseburger. It feels trashy to eat it, and it's nowhere near the quality of a Michelin star meal, but I'll be damned if I don't enjoy the fuck out of it. Now let's talk about the audio side. Audio is another win. In fact, I'd say it's even better than the image quality. For those equipped with an Atmos setup, it is an intense and extremely immersive soundtrack. The Dolby Atmos mix is fantastic, to say the least. The battle sequences alone make it worth the purchase, as this 4K is extremely dirt cheap. You get a full array of sound with subwoofer testing scenes. It makes it no-brainer. Battle scenes, fantastic. I love this 4K transfer. The movie itself wasn't the greatest, but the 4K transfer really helped me slog through the movie. At the number 3 spot, we have Miss Peregrine's Home for the Peculiar Children. Tech specs, shot in 3.2K, finished with a 4K digital intermediate, has HDR10, English Dolby Atmos, English DTS HD master audio. Honestly, while the movie itself is nothing special, the 4K transfer, shot natively in 3.2K with a 4K digital intermediate, the image is clean as ever, that aid the sharpness and detail that shines through Miss Peregrine's Victorian style home and all of its quirks and stylings. They're on full display, and it looks fantastic. A fantastically shot film by cinematographer Bruno Del Bonel really does aid this 4K trans. Little details are on full display. Clothing detail from stitch and patchwork are clear as day. The very faint freckles of Ava Green's face are in full detail. The tiniest of scars can be seen. Every little thing of facial detail looks absolutely fantastic, extremely sharp, and extremely full of detail. As I said, detail, detail, detail. And on the HDR10 side, it gives this film a perfect contrast. And as an avid colorist myself, my nipples were extremely hard. The colors didn't feel overly vivid, yet still popped and felt like I was literally transported into the film. Black levels were extremely inky with no semblance of any type of detail crush. Everyone feels alive and have a realistic complexion to them. And there were also like really subtle color details that pop through, like the little bit of blue in Miss Peregrine's hair is visible compared to the standard Blu-ray that really you can't really see it, and compared to with this HDR10 transfer. And overall, it's honestly a really good, stunning looking 4K transfer, both on the sharpness side and on the HDR. I'm a sucker for a good HDR, and this really won me over. Next is the audio side. This is equipped with Dolby Atmos, and also impresses me, but again, there is some faults on the audio side, as if those people expecting a full array of sound will be left slightly disappointed, as this mix is kind of, obviously it's a drama film, so a lot of it is very front heavy, with overheads getting ignored for the most part, but it does have their moments. Detail in parts can be heard throughout your system with those equipped with Atmos setups. The scenes during the air raids were a particular nice aspect to them. Extremely impressive, as like bombs are dropping, you can hear its descent with pulse pounding and subwoofer testing explosions. The audio mix is also impressive for what it is, but I wouldn't say it's demo worthy. All right, now we're getting into some really good movies. We're talking about Darkest Hour, Gary Oldman, 2017, I believe, 2018 or whatever. Shot at 3K, finished with a 4K digital intermediate, supports HDR10 and English Dolby Atmos, also English True HD 7.1 for those equipped. While the initial idea of a 4K upscale, I use the term lightly, doesn't sound the most enticing, this 4K transfer finished at 4K is quite stunning. Extremely clean 4K image with pin sharp detail. I chose this film in particular not only because of its technical prowess, but it's also its masterful filmmaking. Another Oscar nominated cinematography by Bruno Del Bonel. It shines through with this transfer. Imagery is just beautiful and extremely immersive, that really transports you to the late 1930s, early 1940s. The set design is full of detail. Things like buildings, London streets, to the decor of the interior. This 4K also really helps uplift the fantastic makeup that Gary Oldman is in, and makes his performance really stand out much more, as close-ups are just absolutely fantastic. Pockmarks, beads of sweat, stubble looks really good, and they're all in its full 4K glory. Clothing detail is also fantastic. It's a lot better compared to the Blu-ray. It also upgrades things such as technical issues, as there is a bit of aliasing in this, but it looked a lot worse in the standard Blu-ray version of it. You know, it is much more subdued with this 4K transfer. Inky black levels that don't crush detail, and pure whites. I'd say that visually this 4K disc is fantastic. On the audio side, again, while the film is more dialogue oriented, the Dolby Atmos is a nice bonus for this 4K, as the 1 or 2 World War II scenes are pulse pounding with fantastic subwoofer testing explosions that will rumble your floors. For the most part, it is very stagnant, front heavy based soundtrack with very minimal overheads that really kind of failed to amaze me. But honestly, it still does the job for what the movie is, for what the transfer is. It's definitely more of a visually satisfying transfer with decent audio, I would say. And then lastly, one of my favorite movies of all time, that is Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. Filmed in 35mm, finished with a 4K digital intermediate. It supports HDR10, English Dolby DTS:X, and English Dolby Digital 2.0. I don't know, what can I say? I'm a sucker for modern day movies made on film, transferred to 4K, and within reason, as this 4K transfer is absolutely stunning, with a story about the art of making masterful pieces of clothing. This absolutely beautifully shot PTA masterpiece. It looks fantastic, as like luxurious fabrics are chock full of detail. Facial features on close-ups and mid-range shots are nothing less than amazing, as the masterful cinematography by Paul Thomas Anderson himself really shines through with this transfer. Honestly, I was on the fence of picking up this 4K Blu-ray, as the standard Blu-ray itself also looks fantastic, but after watching it 2 times, it became one of my favorite movies, and obviously I gotta pick it up on 4K. If there's a 4K out there for a movie I love, I have to pick it up. There's no question about it. And for me, the 4K was well worth the upgrade. You know, being a movie made on film, yes, the film grain is pretty prevalent, and for those who hate grain, this may not be the transfer for you, but I personally never felt distracted by its presence. It honestly gave it more of a kind of warm, artistic, vintage filmmaking kind of feel to it that really enhances the viewing experience. When it comes to the HDR, I found it gave it more life to the image as opposed to the standard definition or the SDR counterpart. You know, reds and blues look absolutely stunning. The colors pop and have this realistic vibrancy to it that really makes you understand the beauty and artistic value of dressmaking, which is an overall win in my book, as it enhances the film itself. So, you know, skin complexions are better and more lively compared to the Blu-ray as well. It helped imperfections pop more. Facial features such as freckles, again, beard stubble, hair looks really good. You can see each individual strand of hair, so it's a win in my book. Fantastic. I would say damn near demo quality 4K. And then when it comes to the audio, honestly, it has the exact same DTX soundtrack that is featured in the standard Blu-ray, but it is also still an immersive experience, as the process of dressmaking, which is honestly an extremely satisfying process to witness. Like, it felt like one of those like satisfying ASMR videos. Have you seen those type of videos where it's like videos of someone chopping onions and go like, it's very, very audio stimulating. I really enjoyed this audio track, which again is also a benefit towards the film positively. You know, music sounds great and really shines through, you know, with all the instruments feeling like you're watching the movie with an accompanying orchestra. The mix itself felt redone for home theaters, as I never felt like I needed to, you know, turn up the volume and turn down the volume, as for a lot of mixes that don't really change the audio. Christopher Nolan, who just poured on the same movie theater audio track. Dialogue was rich and clear, and overall a very immersive and ASMR-like experience. This is a must-own for PTA fans and for film fans in general. It seems like his films don't really get that 4K treatment, but when it does, absolutely fantastic. So those were the 5 4K Blu-rays I decided to showcase in this underrated section. The reason why I put underrated quotes is because some of these are really big, fantastic movies, but I never really heard about any of the 4K Blu-ray reviews on it. You know, I know a lot of people really love some of the movies, things like Phantom Thread, I've heard fantastic things about, but you never really hear anything about these 4K transfers. Again, we live in an echo chamber where everyone keeps talking about the same, you know, 10 4K Blu-rays. So I just wanted to highlight these 5 4K Blu-rays that you may have never heard about, that are extremely dirt cheap, and they are well worth the 4K, the 4K watching experience. I also wanted to choose these films because I feel like they're a huge range of just from image quality when it comes to like movies made from film to 4K, 4K upscales, 4K movies recorded in 4K that have like 120 frames per second, and then movies made in 6K, 6.5K, 7K that are reported onto 4K. So anyways, that was my video. Let me know down below, what are some of your underrated 4K transfers? I'd love to hear what you had to say down below. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I have been Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Please have yourself a good day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're watching this. Please stay safe and God bless. Peace, cheers, long live physical media. See you guys.